Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Telivy MSP podcast. Very excited to introduce our guest here today. Caleb, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Caleb Brown. I currently hold the title of Vice President of Sales for a Central Region for the 20 MSP. And I'm based here in the middle of the country in Columbia, Missouri.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, I'll do my intro. Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy. I had partnerships with Telivy, and we help over 100 MSPs capture new prospects with the risk assessment widget on their homepage and run automated risk assessments and asset inventory. MSPs like Halt Data Solutions, Strata Networks, and Level 5 Management use Telivy to run risk assessments to win new clients, generate leads, and book sales calls on their homepage with their risk assessments widget and help clients meet compliance. MSPs also love Telivy because they reduce assessments that take 7-8 days manually to under 5 hours automated with Telivy. So let's dive right in. Caleb, could you tell us a little bit more about the 20 MSP?
Sure, absolutely. We are one of the fastest growing MSPs in North America. We have a great partnership. A lot of people in the community know us as the 20, which is our consultative side of our business, where we help MSPs grow and scale. And so over the past several years, we are also building and helping members that want to what we call roll up into the 20 MSP and become direct to consumer or really business consumer, full soup to nuts, as the phrase goes, IT department for small and medium businesses. And so we have pretty amazing depth and breadth of services that we offer, and with pretty astounding rate of growth that we have. I think we just went over 260 employees here at the 20, and so and added an office in Atlanta, added an office in Topeka. So I think we're up to about 29 offices directly in the 20 MSP, and then we have over 150 MSP partners across the US and Canada that help us help our end customers.
Very, very cool. And I'd love to dive into all of that and get a lot more detail. But so just so I can understand better, are you guys do you guys help MSPs, or are you guys also an MSP yourselves?
Yes. Yes, to answer both sides of that. So we have the consultancy program that we have where we help MSPs grow and scale, and that's called, confusingly, the 20 by itself. And then we have the 20 MSP, which is direct to actually other small and medium businesses that are not MSPs or are not IT companies, to directly serve them as a MSP. And so it's kind of both sides of that coin. We're happy to have members that don't become acquired by the 20 and do their own thing, which is what my company was before we decided to take that adventure with the 20 MSP. Or they can, again, go on that journey of basically, an M&A activity where they want to, strengthen their relationship and be able to serve their customers in a more national scale, but still have the, local feel for the folks that they serve.
Very, very cool. So for our audience of MSPs, I'd love to learn a bit more about the side of your business who does work with MSPs.
Sure.
From an end-to-end case study scenario, right? Could you tell us a story of working with an MSP? What was the initial sort of scenario, right? What was going on? What was the environment? Was it an M&A type of situation? And then what sort of happened afterwards, long term, the solution?
Yeah. Yeah, I can give you stories from both sides of it. Again, coming from the easiest story to tell is always your own, I think, right? So as a previous MSP owner, we were, again, I think that the last study I read, the average size of IT companies here in the United States is like 5 or under. So as far as that goes, we were relatively larger sized MSP at that time. We had 12 folks here in the what we call mid Missouri region, and we were doing well, especially talking to a lot of different peers. But we were definitely struggling with two major components, and that was scale and talent. It's not really acquisition, though that was part of it, but really talent retention I'll leave them nameless to protect the really successful businesses here that were rapidly acquiring great technical talent. I always tease my folks that work in that business here. That's they're doing phenomenal. And I know some of the owners that have been on the Inc. 100 several times, but I always tease them that I built their IT staff, because half of my staff now is a leadership at their IT thing. And so that was a big part of it. We were always, it felt like, as a business owner, and I think a lot of people can feel this, that you, in our industry, obviously you always have to be learning, you always have to be training, you have to work on those different pieces. And it would feel like it's just a feeling. It's not necessarily necessarily the best morality tale here, but you'd feel like you just got somebody where you train them and they're excellent and they're fantastic, and then they go, for us, either work for that large really growing company here that was literally like paying triple of what the market rate was for people. And I would literally tell my guys, I'm like, hey, go, that's fantastic for sure. And so or they'd leave for the coast, right, where again we're here in what's collectively called flyover country. So a lot of people want to go and live next to the ocean, which I can't blame them. That's beautiful. That's a really cool thing to do. But it was a struggle, right? So you have that kind of ebb and flow of, like, you build a great team, somebody needs to and you're always recruiting and having that happen, and it's just it's a lot of effort, a lot of time, and sometimes a lot of heartbreak when you have somebody that, again, for good reasons or bad, decides to make a change in their life, and that dramatically affects your ability to serve the folks that you've worked with in that relationship. So we were kind of always struggling with that. How do we grow and scale? And so we had an opportunity to meet with the folks at the 20 and understand their consumption model, where buying the products from them also gets you access to one of the biggest challenges a lot of MSPs have, which I always think is kind of one of those price of admission types of what we do, and that's reactive support, right? If you're in this business, you're going to have to do help desk, right? Mm-hmm. Like, most people will not even entertain, oh no, we just want to do your cybersecurity, we just want to do your projects, we just want to do strategy for you. That's fine. There are some niches that way, but for the most part, customers are like, yeah, but what happens when Cindy at the front office needs to call in and get her computer fixed? So you want to have a really great answer, and you want to be able to control that and have an enterprise level of that. So the 20 gave us the ability to have that as a collaborative enterprise level, 24/7, 365, not getting paged in the middle of the night, right, stumbling down to your, hopefully your office in your basement to start working on somebody's issue. Really people that are there ready to work, dedicated to that task. Same thing again at 12 people. We did have our staff segmented, where we had project engineers, we had support desk engineers, a dispatch person. I was doing most of the sales and marketing with some outsourced folks as well, but there was still a lot of trading off hats, right? Okay, well, all the support guys are on a call. You have a reactive ticket come in. What happens? Well, you tap the project guy on the shoulder, right? Because he knows how to support too. But that pulls him away from the focus of doing the projects. So with the 20, allowed us to partner with them and hand off a lot of that workload off to an enterprise level help desk that's based in the Dallas Plano area. So it's US based here. So, for almost all of our customers, there are, no communication barriers to work with that team. And they have a really sophisticated system of setting it up in pods. So even though it's a really large team of guys and gals that do help desk, the vast majority of our clients always interface with a handful of people. So they still get that kind of what I like to call tribal knowledge of, once you fixed a problem for that tribe, and it, you can get to the root cause of it and get that solved much more rapidly. And you just learn, personalities and people, and then it cuts down on that communication time frame that people have. So anyway, that was a really long answer for, it gave us the ability to not only bring on best practices with some, the association that happens, the collaborativeness that happens within the 20 with all the members, we also were able to, standardize that part of our business was really, again, at an enterprise level. So now, big part of what MSPs have to do, we were able to say, hey, we've got that handled with the 20. Now let's focus on these other sides of the business of, we can confidently go in and grow and scale these other areas. And we actually didn't lose, a lot of folks think, oh gosh, so you let go of your 2 help desk guys? No, we promoted them to being project people as well. And one of them got promoted to being kind of a cybersecurity expert for us. And so we were able to kind of unleash their power as well, and have some career path for our teams here. And it was really successful for us. So that's kind of our story. We partnered with them, and then we had the opportunity last October through some really long due diligence of being acquired by the 20. And then, so that was we had a 4.5 year, 5-year relationship with the 20 as partners before we were acquired by the 20. So the other story I will tell at my office that I have in St. Louis was a gentleman that he just started his MSP, I think about 18 months ago, and found out about the 20. It was just him and one other technician. They were immediately able to add that service on, immediately able to rapidly grow, and then again within that time frame be acquired. So how cool is that you could start a business, grow it rapidly, and turn around and have it valuable enough that somebody wants to buy it from you. And now in that partnership, he's able to, I think our CEO owner likes to say about what's your magic? What makes you what are you most passionate about in your business? It's probably not the 100 things that business owners have to kind of wear the hat for. It's probably a handful, and the rest of them we do because we have to. So getting on that and becoming acquired or being part of the 20 MSP allows us to just, focus in on what we love to do, and, likely, and we're always building it. So we're always looking for great people out there whoever's listening, to come on board and be able to just work their magic and not have to, to be frank, I'm not the best HR guy you want. I'm just like, yeah, let's get payroll out, got that done, let's move on, right? I'd read some of the regulations about every quarter, feel like I was really positive and good, make sure everything was good, but it wasn't a daily activity. And to grow and scale a business, there's those components that you need to have experts in. And so being able to be part of a much larger organization, really allows for the specialization. And that's a massive benefit for the folks that are working there. And, the end result is better for our clients as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned scaling and growing, right? So after joining the 20, being able to grow and scale in a way that the MSPs weren't able to before. Now you highlighted a lot around help desk and just sort of other processes to free up time of the owner and the team members there so that they could specialize and do what they do best. But how exactly does the 20 either directly or indirectly lead to the growth and the scaling? Is there a process? Is there a business model around this? How
Yes.
turn
Yeah.
into growth?
Two big components of that. Number one, the way the business relationship is set up for folks that want to partner with the 20 is it's a consumption-based model. So you only pay for what you consume. So you would consume how many users that you're supporting. And again, it's very much like how most MSPs directly price to their end clients as well. So it's very easy to account for, kind of a 1-to-1 ratio. So you pay for the devices that you'd like to have supported, you pay for the users you'd like to have supported, the servers you'd like to have supported. And so now you can calculate exactly, your profitability. When you bring on a new client, you should be able to immediately calculate that profitability that you have. You should be able to immediately account for the tools that you're consuming. So we have a fantastic managed stack of tools. So I know that for my MSP friends out there, I was one of you for sure, where you chase the shiny penny, right? You go to a conference or you learn about a new tool and you're like, oh, this is the coolest thing. Let me go get this, and then start working to sell it to my customers. And hopefully I'll make money on it someday, right? Or there's a big benefit there. So instead of chasing that around, you've got a core set of tools that are actively managed, have good documentation around trainings around that. Yeah, the business model is, you're able to have all of that really done for you. So you can go to market and know, be very competitive with your pricing, be very, very, very realistic about how you're going to help and support somebody. So again, simple story. There were definitely times before we were partners of the 20 where there were deals that we turned down because we didn't think that we could do a quality job for them. Right. Maybe there's one in my mind that they had an office here where we were locally that we could get to very simply. But then they also had an office in Denver and they had an office in San Francisco. And, the world has changed a lot. And most IT work is done remotely, but not all of it is. And we still think that's important to be able to have local presence and be able to, do that if needs be. When we analyzed that deal, we pulled out of it. Like we came out of the bidding process because before the partnership with the 20, we knew there were going to be times that we might, not be able to do the quality job we wanted to do, both from just, again, a quality of timeliness and, being a business person, you got to work the numbers, right? Could this deal be potentially, a backbreaker for us? And so the ability to grow and scale as being partners with the 20, it's not really a problem anymore. We have offices there, not an issue. We'll take on that client, 10 times a day right now. I wouldn't have any lack of confidence that we'd be able to effectively serve them, give them a great quality of service, and be able to still remain, business viable for both parties, right? We can offer them a good price. I don't have to do any kind of weird pricing to say, oh, well, you got to try to figure in travel for when we need to be there and have all these random weird expenses that you don't want to have. And because I don't want to cover it either. So from that standpoint, you can go to market faster, you can scale better. And again, because of the consumption model where you pay for what you consume, you don't have to, the calculations are much more simple. You can know that you're going to be, it's going to be a win for the client and a win for you when you close deals.
That makes a lot of sense. Being able to take on bigger deals that you weren't able to before, thanks to the resources, but also being able to handle more deals at the same time, again, because of the resources and locations and things like that. This might be a bit of a weird question here, but if
Oh, I
I were
like
an
the weird ones. Go for it.
Okay, if I were an MSP, I would think if the 20 has all of these resources all across the country, why couldn't the 20 just sort of be the MSP? Why do they need the MSP owners to work with them? What's the value that the MSP owners bring to this equation?
Yeah. So, I think one giant thing I would say out there, when we're, marketing and selling as the 20 MSP, which again, I work directly for end clients. I work with do a lot of mentoring and consulting for members, but I work directly, for our end consumers. So we are, people might look at it and be like, oh, you guys are competing against your own members. We do not. We will always, if we have, and I've actually done this numerous times where we have a deal come up through our sales funnel that is in the same marketplace as a member. And we will, because we're selling on the same model as well, right? So we have the same shared processes, the same way of working together, which is again a giant benefit to the end client if they have multi-site, right? It'd be really tough if you had to have two different IT providers that are using two different platforms.
Right.
Lots of finger pointing that I'm sure you can imagine would happen if you try to do that. So we offer the ability, the members are on the same, work the same way. So yeah, we will actually, for a couple of those, got a couple of good thank you cards in the mail and one gift where a guy said, hey, thanks. You pretty much still, serve this up on a silver platter because there are members in that area. We'll always make sure the members are who are going to serve the client. If there's not a member in that opportunity zone, we're going to try to service that client. But yeah, we would love, I think, everybody, if it was in, their career path or what they wanted to do, to eventually, I think, roll up and be part of the 20 MSP, but not necessary at all. And we'll always have a place for both of those because, again, it fits two different, psychographies, I guess, if you would, mindsets. I laughed with a lot of people when I sold my business. I hadn't had a boss for 17 years. This is gonna be weird. So I was like, am I actually going to be a good employee? I know I felt like I was a pretty good owner and a pretty good boss, but I don't know about this whole employee thing. It's been a while. So there might be, again, guys and gals out there that wouldn't want to ever have a boss, that aren't really looking for that. But we've seen it again from mindset. I think we're in a really cool industry, and that almost everybody I've met actually really, really nice people. Like they want good things for not just themselves, but they want good things for their clients. They want good things for their staff. And so we give an opportunity for people to, if they do have that point in their career where they feel like, hey, I'm ready for something else, or I'm ready to retire. Well, instead of just pulling the brakes, like just pulling, the plug on the drain, right? And saying, well, staff, you guys figure it out, or clients, you guys figure this out. They have a really good pathway where they can, become members and start integrating that way. And if it fits, become acquired, or what, again, we call it roll up. And
I think
then for their clients, much smoother transition, much more stable for everybody, and gives, again, another thing that I loved about it. We have 3 or 4 guys from just last year that were part of my local team here that have been promoted to like national positions. So career pathways that we wouldn't have had before available for them, that they've been able to take advantage of and do a really good job for. So
absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think for every, business owner, that's the dream, right? Is to be able to pass it on and have it keep going, right? Your legacy keep going and growing.
yeah, you don't have to just hit the genetic lottery where your son or daughter wants to do what you did. I mean, God bless those folks that have that. But I tease I have 4 little ones at home, and I was like, hey, one day all this could be yours. And they just look at me and Dad, I don't want to do that. I want to do this other thing. So yeah, there's a really good strategy there. And again, what I've just noticed is a huge relief from people's shoulders, that they really feel like they took care of their clients as well. I mean,
exactly. Team members.
You probably talk with way more MSPs than I do, but I know for us, some of our clients, I've had the relationships with them longer than I've had with, friends and family, where we've had them for years and years and years, sometimes decades. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of, and we feel like we're a big part of their business. And so, this model gives them a great resource to be able to, have, I guess, what gets thrown around in our world. And we typically are talking about backups and recovery, but business continuity goes beyond just technology, right? There's workflows and relationships and those type of pieces that is a big part of business continuity as well. And so with our breadth and depth and scale that we have, we, can let people take advantage of that by becoming partners or eventually part of the 20 MSP.
I think that makes a ton of sense, because also, before we move on, I want to comment that MSP owners are built different. Where there's not too many industries like the MSP IT cybersecurity industry, where you're both a business person, sales, marketing, and you got to be technical, right? And know how to actually solve these problems. And it's hard for me to think of another industry that has more fires than IT cybersecurity, as well as an industry that moves this fast, right? You're one MSP owner, you have these set of clients, and you've been doing this for a while, but then this new thing happens, you gotta learn it. You gotta learn compliance, you gotta learn cybersecurity, you gotta learn, right, the next set of tools, you gotta keep up with it. So there's just something very, very special, I think, and very valuable about the training that MSPs get through this business. And so I wanted to ask you, so what's the day today, these days, what do you focus on, Caleb? What's sort of your role today?
Yeah, my role now is sales, directly to, or business development, if you want to use the politically correct term for it. I'm an old school guy. I just everything in life is negotiation and sales. So, I think people are just scared of that sometimes, so they use other fancy words. But so what I primarily do is, and we have a great sales force. We actually just got through with an awesome training that my boss put on in our headquarters down there in Plano, Texas, where we had a sales summit. And that was a tremendous thing, again, from from the MSP community to look around a room and be like, oh my gosh, this is sales and account management team, and we have like 35 people in the room. That's tremendous. Kind of an unfair to our competition, to be honest.
Clarification question.
Yes.
Sales, teaching MSPs owners, MSPs how to do sales to end clients, or you selling directly to end clients, or you selling MSPs on the 20?
Sometimes I could answer yes to all of those, but
Uh,
primarily focused on bringing new clients, net new clients into management for the 20 MSP. So direct end clients, so architects, attorneys, CPA firms, dentists,
Interesting.
manufacturing.
So
So, and then
where do
I have a
those
team of. Go ahead.
where do those clients go? Do they go to basically the team of MSPs across the country after you've basically sold them? And
It could, if they happen to be in one of those marketplaces where we have a member. Again, we won't directly compete against a member. We'll defer that deal to them if they're, again, if they want it and if it makes sense, they can serve that client. But we have strategically acquired offices where, like for here, Missouri is not a large market. So, we were the member in our zone. And so, there's not another 20 member here in my direct marketplace where I'm at. But I oversee the central region, which we have many states in that region. And so sometimes there are competitors that we have. And so I've got a great sales team that work with me, team members that I always tease them. A couple of them are way more seasoned and way better than I am. So I'm like, I guess, when we look at the HR chart, I'm your boss, but I'm here to help you. We're team members. You can probably teach me more than I can teach you. But out there, yeah, if we get into the daily activities, right, we're doing, everything from networking events to, I've actually got a webinar coming up here this month, helping, educate as well. So we're doing one on how you can actually, not a pie in the sky stuff about AI, but literally here's how you can use it in your business to be more productive. To, plain old get on the phone and calling folks and doing prospecting. And so, and definitely, coaching and training with the folks that do report to me. And so those are the pieces, but no, I love it. I love being able to offer our solution to, end clients, and help stabilize. If there's one thing that I will say, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, we are built different. There are a lot of people that it's tough to say no. I'll put it that way, right? So I think a lot of people in this business don't always look at it from a a really objective viewpoint. They'll just say, "Oh, Jeremy just called me, says his place is on fire and he needs IT help, and I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to rush in and figure it out." Right? Pretty common scenario for client acquisition in our industry.
Yep.
Now, whether you actually have a good system to really help Jeremy or not, questionable, sadly, sometimes. So again, with how we're built different, and literally the 20 means it's like the Pareto principle or the Matthew principle, if familiar. So the top, 20% get 80% of the work done, or to that has much will be given. So, have a solid foundation, have, real capability to be able to really help people implement a system, manage the infrastructure properly, have a really in-depth layered defense from a cybersecurity standpoint, is pretty tremendous. So I love being out there, evangelizing, right? For there's clearly a way to do this business. There's a way to do it right. There's a way that you can still, I love that our business is very unregulated, but that causes a problem where everybody that says, "Yeah, I'm pretty clever with this stuff. I can figure stuff out. I'm pretty good at Google. I'll start my MSP, right? I'll buy a couple tools." But that, there's a far wide ocean between technical capability and true business, stability. Yeah.
I want to dig a little deeper into so your day to day, you're doing sales. I talked to a lot of folks, MSPs who have various types of sales processes. I was also curious what events you go to, but yeah, going to events and networking, calling, hosting webinars. I've seen a few of the more mature folks do. I'm curious, do you use risk assessments as part of your sales process? Not only the technical implementation and solution, but as part of selling somebody, getting a conversation started, laying out the value prop, right? Oh, here's why we need to do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a key part. I mean, one of the things that I had a couple help from some really awesome other guys. We have a sales playbook that we follow, and again, like you mentioned earlier, kind of built different. I'm a recovering software programmer. That's what I went to school for. I haven't done it forever, so please don't ask me to code. I would literally just ask AI and I'd be able to know. But we think in like logic loops and if-then statements and pieces like that. So
Right.
absolutely, we have a really awesome a third-party partner that we use for doing assessments for both. We use it internally for clients that we have already to make sure, got a who's watching the watchman kind of scenario, right?
Yeah.
That old joke of like, you can ask any IT guy, hey, is your client's environment secure? Yeah, of course, just ask me, I'll tell you it is. So, how do you prove that? Well, you bring in a trusted third party that can do that. And then again, during the sales cycle, there are definitely times when it's appropriate to do an assessment. And then there are times where you can get to the end of the sales cycle just based on needs, right? Like there may be need to do the assessment. I think that I know for me, I love doing assessments because it's one of those, don't take my word for it. I'll talk really fast and tell you lots of cool things, but here's the evidence, right? And you can either tackle these challenges that you're going to find during assessment. You can try to do it yourself. You can try to hand it off to the team that you already have doing this. Good checklist for them to walk through. I would just, throw into question, why aren't these already done scenarios? Because I'm guessing your assessment tool the same. It's one of those interesting things of there's always work to do, right? Now I've come across a lot of environments that are set up really, really well. And the issue that they're engaging with us to solve is, again, more cultural, or cultural is not probably the right word for it, but customer service based. I find that it's almost always, service or money, right? Those are the two reasons people make a decision on who to work with for their IT. And a big part of that service equation is in today's world, are they talking to you about your security posture? Are they helping you be compliant? Are they recommending solutions that fit your needs? Or are you still running Norton antivirus from 1996? No shade to Norton. I know it's a cool company. I'm just going back to my old days of Symantec consoles and doing like that stuff. But yeah, we really like to be able to have an assessment. And then again, we often use them internally, like during the onboarding process. It's a really good tool to use to see, okay, what are we looking at here? Helps us and help clients identify, okay, in this list of 100 things to build the Starship, which are the 10 most important things to start on right now, based on what we think is the 10 most important things. Let's have a conversation. Jeremy, are these the 10 most important things to you? What we find is most of the time those are in alignment, but then we might find out something in that conversation of, yeah, well, that's going away, right? So again, if you're talking to lots of MSPs, we're talking to lots of end clients that are, they're to the point now where, especially after the pandemic, where now the cloud makes a lot more sense. So a lot of folks that are, once they're coming to refresh on-site or on-premise servers, they're saying things like, is that all these problems, the VPNs and all these other different things, is there a possibility we could migrate this to the cloud? And so again, might use an assessment. They might say, hey, your server is 2012 R2 or God forbid something older than that.
Right,
and with
right.
all these problems. And so we think this is a big giant issue. And they say, yeah, of course, that's what we wanted to bring you guys on for, because we want to migrate that to the cloud. And so again, you evaluate the assessment with not just what the paper says or what the report says, but integrate that into a real conversation with strategy. And so again, part of what we do for our clients is we're the IT department. So we're doing, consultative services, we're doing projects. It's all included in our, in our model. So there's not a bunch of, extra hidden fees, no gotchas
Yeah,
necessarily, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And I think and this is just a plug for us, but also sharing what we've learned from our MSPs, utilizing risk assessments, and specifically Televy's risk assessments in their sales process, whether it's converting website traffic to sales calls with an external scan and going over those results. We found, social engineering breach on the dark web, right, for your team on the first sales call, or going in and doing a full internal risk assessment and being able to automate that to only a couple hours, and going, oh, here's a presentation, right, that Televy gives you. Here's your security posture, here's your A tier and your B tier and your C tier and whatnot, and password breaches, and here's the dollar amount because we've assessed, oh, you work with financial data, you work with healthcare privacy data, here's how much you're at risk for, $3 million of breach. We had some MSPs come to us and say, oh, we need an asset inventory to accurately identify, count how many devices they have, so we can give accurate pricing because the per device, because the
Sure.
tools out there aren't accurate enough. And MSPs, after utilizing risk assessments in their sales process, see a 2.5 to 3x increase in revenue. And also, pass the sale, right, on onboarding, absolutely necessary. Also QBRs, quarterly, monitoring and things like
Sure.
that as well. So,
Yeah,
but
that's a really huge advantage on the, asset thing. We talk about that at length with our sales process. So it's the kind of the old, I think it's a SEAL or a Navy saying, right? Like, slow is steady, steady is fast, or some version of that, right? Like getting it right on the front end, just
yep,
shows that I kind of always have a little phrase in my mind, or what I I try my best every single day and instill that to my team of, to the folks we work with, is the amount of energy and care that's put in the sales process should be indicative of what it's going to look like after you start a relationship, right? Like if somebody's not willing to put in some work before you give them money, how much work do you think they're going to put in after you start handing them money, right? After you've got the contract signed. So I think that getting that right in the beginning, so like you mentioned, having that asset part of it is really important. There's also kind of a time and distance part of it. So I think, again, like if I'm hearing you right, if your assessment is, timely, relatively rapid,
yep,
then I think that's really critical for folks using or picking a tool. Is, you have to have something that gives you real data, not a bunch of, I really am not a fan. Hopefully your guys doesn't do it, of like, I'll leave them nameless. I think everybody in the community kind of knows some of the traditional tools out there that'll generate, a report that if you printed it off will fill 3 binders, and you come and you'd slam it down on a table and be like, look at all the stuff we find. And the customer's just eyes kind of glaze over, and, none of it's
yeah,
real actionable. It's a lot of kind of
yep,
fluff, right?
mm-hmm.
But yeah, you definitely want to make it where it's relatively painless for whomever's consuming or performing the scan. And then I hope you guys do this too. I think it's really important that hopefully that some of those results are reviewed by a third party, right? I think I coach the folks I'm working with. Hey, I wouldn't trust a stranger coming in with a USB drive or sharing admin credentials. I wouldn't recommend that you do that. I wouldn't recommend that you just, blindly say, sure, yeah, run this evaluation on my system. So another one we use is a combination of like interview questions with key staff, plus kind of I shouldn't say non-intrusive, because part of what it does is test if intrusions are available. But the results of findings are really generated and reported on by that trusted third party that has, all their compliances in a row. So, a trusted source. So you don't have to take Caleb's word for it, because if I'm interacting with a prospect, especially, I'm clearly biased,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
do want your business. I do want you to sign up for it. So if it was just Caleb Brown's white labeled security assessment score, if I'm on the other side of the table, I'm taking that with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Of like, okay, of course, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so hopefully, again, your guys' solution is similar, where it's really based on evaluation that you guys, as a relatively disinterested third party, right, whether they close the deal or not, really probably doesn't impact you guys a ton. Kind of does, but not 100%. So I think that's it. I think that's good. But I think there's times
Yes,
where
100%.
there's an appropriate use for a tool in every situation, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and the answer is yes. And we're getting to the end of our podcast, so just
Yep.
switching gears one last time here. I'd love to learn, Caleb, over 20 years experience in the IT industry. Um, what would you say is your most important learning?
Wow, that's a really good question. Most important learning, to me, is, I would say, don't forget we're all humans working together. I think folks that get wrapped up in what maybe tool sets they have, or maybe what kind of go-to-market strategy they have, or what they think is really some whiz bang, you know, component or technology that we all use, and then neglect the human relationship component
Yep.
of getting to know and putting themselves, having that empathy for who they're serving, in whichever fashion that might be. Again, maybe you're out there, maybe you're a vendor in the channel. Understand the MSPs that you're serving, like have a relationship with them, have conversations like these with them to figure out, is what we're doing delivering value. And same thing, with us serving in clients. Like, if I was in their shoes, would I feel like that they honored me as another, person spinning around this planet?
Yeah.
Um, were they bringing value to me? Were they doing not just the quick thing, but the right thing? Because again, that's the deal. Like, I'm stealing this. I think Gary Pika is a really honored and trusted guy in the community, right? And the least cost way to do anything is to do it the right way. So, figuring out that right way, that's a whole nother podcast. But if you can, get it to where you have a system that you can plug in that still, kind of honors the human element of us all, that can consistently deliver value. If you can do that, the world's your oyster, right?
Absolutely. I think that's extremely wise, and it's really easy to get caught up in the day to day and the fires and the technology and the issues. But a lot of times, just remembering that we're human, our team members are human, the clients are human, right? Our partners are human, and we're all just trying to help each other out right, at the end of the day. And a lot of things, especially with cybersecurity, it takes trust. It's not just about the numbers, right? And just I'm just trying to repeat what you said, right? Like, so having empathy, and the client seeing that you do empathize and you do understand, and you are doing your best to do things in their best interest as well, right? I think that's so important. And yeah, I 100% agree. I do want to fire off a few more quick
Sure.
questions here before I hop off. I'm curious because you mentioned your kids, and how you said, oh, who's interested in and taking up this business next. And I'm curious, how did you get the bug for entering the IT industry? How did you get started? What was the initial spark? I'm curious.
Sure. Well, I have almost everything that I have now, because I totally married up and have a much better spouse than I am probably to her. And I'll make a very long story short, but she worked for a law firm, and their IT that they had there.
uh,
Um, she said, "Hey, this guy's a genius, but from a business standpoint." And again, if you ever watch this, I love you. I'm not throwing any shade. I just tell you the story to your face. He needs help from a business standpoint, right? So at that time, a lifetime ago, it feels like, two different, critical points happening in life of I was helping to open up Best Buy stores, which is fun and exciting and had a blast and met some really amazing folks doing that. It's not super conducive to settling down, putting down roots, and having a family, which is the family, strategy and plan we were having at the time. So that was my wife's gentle nudge for, hey, get out of this crazy corporate job of, going all over the place and doing all these, long nights and random schedules. And, little did she know IT is not necessarily
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
super from the scheduling standpoint of things, at least it's a little bit more controlled if you do it right.
Or just being an
Yeah, it was,
entrepreneur is a lot.
yeah, compared to, so introduced me to the gentleman that had the company here. I basically took vacation from my work that I had stacked up that you can never really use because it didn't really count, right? Like, this is great, you earned vacation, but if you can't ever, use it, what is good? So I actually did take it, spent about a week doing basically what I joked with him. I was like, I'm just going to be like a college student. I'm just going to audit this class, see what the potential is here. And after some conversations and some, deeper dives into the business, I thought, well, and again, at that time, this is going way back in time, I just helped launch Best Buy's conversion from their internal service techs to the Geek Squad rollout, and then actually went to a competitor that doesn't exist anymore, but they kind of tried to clone and start their own, computer services and security business and help launch that. So I had a pretty good idea from seeing a couple companies that did it really, some things they did really well, some things they did not so well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, came over, and luckily it was kind of a small ship, especially comparatively to those really big organizations with a lot of, really good SOPs, but a lot of red tape. And, to a small business, and, wrap my head around that and how things are a little bit different in that, well, a lot of it different. But, and actually worked I was just really as a pure management role. But again, like you just mentioned, from just a standpoint of like how much work there is to do in a day, and that I'm not the best technician, but I'm probably better than the average squirrel when it comes to this stuff. So, I'd fill my day with, like, it wasn't a very big organization at the time, 5 people. It doesn't take much to manage 5 people. So I would get done, a couple hours a day, and I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to like drive everybody crazy by micromanaging them and, run around. I can do this stuff too. So, and then we kind of hit a point where at that time, again, this is way back in the day, so we were almost more of a IT consultant only instead of a MSP. I had my set of clients that I worked with. The other guys had their set of clients. We would kind of share one admin person to do, incoming, generic calls and those kind of different deals. But we found out, that really has us talk about not being able to scale. Like, that is a model that doesn't scale at all and is really dangerous, which we found out. We had one of the, bigger consultants at the time had a fifth of our clients, because we just kind of split them up, right? It's like round robin. Okay, Caleb, you get this one. And then, Cash, you get this one. And, so on and so forth. And then when that gentleman left,
right,
some of the clients stuck around and didn't. And I know, there's a lot of businesses out there that can tell that story, right? Lots of different CPA groups and legal groups and dentistry groups where, that's a big challenge they have, is like, once you have built that relationship with just that one person at a company, you have that danger that person could easily leave and take their whole book of business with them, right? Because they don't have the relationship with the company, they just have it with the person. And so then we made the switch to MSP, and then started the path of, segmenting the organization. So again, I don't know if that was actually short, but it feels short because it did take, we always laugh after, again, we were acquired, and everybody's like, patting us on the back and think, that's really cool that you guys were able to have a business that somebody wants to buy. And I was like, the old cliche of, overnight success, 17 years in the making. Right. So, but yeah, it's been really cool. And again, I have to definitely thank all the folks, team members that we worked with over the years, and, some of the best clients in the world, that I think it goes both ways, right? A lot of IT guys will bend over backwards for their customers, and a lot of customers will, clients will bend over backwards for their IT guy or
Partners.
gal or company.
I'd love to touch on one last thing, which is, so you mentioned a lot of folks that you worked with. One of the issues that you were facing before was a lot of folks were leaving for the coast and or just moving somewhere else and just changing career paths or things like that. I'm curious. So I understand. So you've been in Missouri where you're staying for all your life, like you grew up there and everything.
Sort
I'm
of, yeah. I grew up in a tiny little town closer to
uh,
Kansas City, but then in our town, I think every third person has a story. You come here to the main college that's here, MU, um, and you meet your significant other, and then like we actually didn't even date in college, we just kind of came back around. And then it's such a I love little college towns. From when I've traveled around, we have pretty much all the benefits of a large metro area with
oh yeah.
much less of the downsides of a large metro area. So
Mhm.
no, I maybe I was teasing my wife the other day, hey, Bahamas don't have any income tax or property tax.
Yeah, you're working
We could
remote.
go, yeah, we could go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can go hit up that spot. And then she hit me with the whole safety thing. It's like, well, yeah, it's a little dangerous down there comparatively, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
no,
mean,
different seasons of life, right? And again,
yeah, yeah.
it can be a frustration in business, where you do have folks that leave for whatever reason. And we've had folks that we loved, and their spouse would get some phenomenal job. They're like their dream job somewhere, and you got to say, hey, well, yeah, and again, I've just been doing this so long. A lot of those opportunities, when I look back on it, back in time, I'll be like, okay, so workforce remotely wherever you are. I don't care,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's much less a thought process I think we all had before 2020.
Where I was going with that was what keeps you in Missouri, or what do you love most about this place?
It's a really good question. I know for me, the answer is really easy. It's family.
Mhm.
So my family is again in a tiny little town. Actually, my daughters are both there with their grandparents this week. I took them up Saturday, so they're spending time with grandma and grandpa and their puppy,
That's
and
amazing.
prepping up for. My mom makes these little. It's like a family thing called Springly cookies. If you run into any like European folks, they might know what that is. But you literally like make these little cookies, and they press, and they have little designs, and you paint them before you bake them. And so they were having a blast doing that. And my wife's family is more on the kind of St. Louis side, so we're right in the middle between Kansas City and St. Louis. So right here we're kind of where people are able to visit us really easily. We're able to visit them really easily. And so pretty good environment for, I think Missouri's pretty good environment for for especially Columbia is kind of a little bit like people talk about like it being like Austin, Texas, right? So there's a
Uh-huh.
big kind of melting pot because we have a big university here. So there's a lot of different cultural diversity and cultural activities and mindsets. And so I love it. I love, I don't like to be in a echo chamber, as it were. So I think it's pretty cool. But again, still pretty safe place to have a business um, and raise a family.
Absolutely. I absolutely love college towns too. The energy, and it's just so beautiful, and I love the culture of that as
Yeah,
well.
Jeremy, I should have asked you, where do you hail from?
I went to school in Atlanta, Georgia, Georgia Tech. That was my college town. Before that, I lived in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. So,
Okay, cool. We just brought on an office in Atlanta last month before. So we have a pretty decent sized presence there in Atlanta. Looking forward to
yeah,
Scott's down there. Shout out to Scott if you ever see this. He's an awesome guy. So
awesome, awesome. Yeah, huge business community down there. But Caleb, thank you so much for speaking with us. The last question, I promise, is who should reach out to you, and what's the best way to reach you?
yeah, I think probably for everybody out there in the world listening, if you are an IT provider and looking to grow and scale, the 20.com. If you are if you're watching this and you are looking for great IT services for your business, the 20msp.com. And if you hit one, you can get to the other. If you hit the other one, you can get to that one. So that's probably the best way to, to get connected, and always looking for great folks to connect with on LinkedIn. It's just Caleb Brown on LinkedIn. There's not too many of me out there, but I did have to arm wrestle somebody for the email C Brown. There was Chad Brown up in our Midwest region. We had to arm wrestle a little bit so I could get C Brown instead of Caleb.Brown. But either way, you can get me at Caleb.Brown at the20.com as well.
Awesome. And links will be in the description. And just the last plug for us. Hey, folks, are you an MSP and want to win new clients and capture new prospects on your homepage with our risk assessment widget? Reach out to us today at Telivy.com. And special promotion for podcast listeners. If you know an MSP owner or sales or marketing professional who could benefit from winning new prospects, connect us over email at contact@Telivy.com. When your referral becomes a Telivy partner, you receive $500 referral bonus. Thank you so much, Caleb. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jeremy.